Assalamu alaikum dear students. In the last lecture of chapter 4, Laws of Motion, we have studied about the motion, which is the phenomenon in which an object can changes its position over time. And the motion is mathematically described in terms of displacement, distance, velocity, acceleration, speed and time there. We had seen the branch of physics describing the motion of objects without reference to its cause is kinematics, and the branch studying forces and their effect on motion is dynamics. The cause of motion, that is force, plays very important role in our day-to-day life. We had studied Aristotle fallacy stated that an external force is required to keep a body in uniform motion. This was probably based on a common experience, like a ball rolling on a surface stops after rolling through some distance. Thus, to keep the ball moving with constant velocity, we have to continuously apply a force on it. Similar example can be found elsewhere, like a paper plane flying through air or a paper board propelled with some initial velocity. The correct explanation to Aristotle's fallacy was given by Galileo, which was later used by Newton in formulating laws of motion. Galileo showed that all the objects stop because of some resistive or opposing forces like friction, viscous drag, etc. Now, in these examples, such forces are frictional force for rolling ball, viscous drag or viscous force of air for paper plane, and viscous force of water for the boat. Thus, the exact relationship between a force acting on a body and the motion of the body is given by famous Newton's laws of motion. The Newton's laws of motion is given in terms of three laws. The Newton's first law states that every body continues to be in a state of rest or of uniform motion along a straight line unless it is acted upon by an external unbalanced force. This means that a body on its own cannot change the state of rest. The body on its own cannot change the state of uniform motion along a straight line. And this inability of a body to change by itself its state of motion is called inertia of the body. Inertia of a body is measured by the mass of the body. Heavier the body, greater is the force required to change its state and hence greater its inertia. Newton's first law gives the qualitative definition of a force, and hence we can define a force is a push or pull exerted on a body which produces or tends to produce a change in its velocity. Newton's second law of motion states that the rate of change of linear momentum of a body is directly proportional to the external unbalanced force applied on the body and takes place in the direction of force. The linear momentum of the body is product of mass and its velocity. If mu is the initial linear momentum p1 and mv is the final linear momentum p2 after time t, then by using the Newton's second law, p2 minus p1 upon t, which is the rate of change of linear momentum, is directly proportional to force, and hence F is equal to k into p2 minus p1 upon t, that is change in linear momentum with respect to time. The constant of proportionality k is 1 when we choose unit of momentum as kilogram meter per second and unit of force as Newton. Similarly, in CGS system of units, the unit of force is defined by taking k is equal to 1. Hence, F that we come to know it is P2 minus P1 upon T, that is change in linear momentum upon time, is equal to actually mass into acceleration. And hence, by using the Newton's second law of motion, we come to know the basic formula for the force that we are using as F is equal to product of mass and acceleration, where A is the acceleration of the body and it is assumed that mass m is constant there. The Newton's third law of motion states that to every action there is always an equal and opposite reaction. That is, if body A exerts force on body B, then body B also exerts equal amount of force but in opposite direction on the body A. Thus, force always occur in pairs. Any one can be called as action and other as reaction, as action and reaction refer over here as force. A single isolated force is not possible. Action and reaction forces act always on a different bodies. Hence, they never cancel each other. Each force produces its own effect. After that, we had studied importance of Newton's laws of motion. The importance of the Newton's first law of motion is, first point, it shows an equivalence between state of rest and state of uniform motion along a straight line, as both need a net unbalanced force to change the state. Both these are referred to as state of motion. The distinction between state of rest and uniform motion lies in the choice of the frame of reference. Second importance of the first law of motion is it defines force as an entity or a physical quantity that brings about a change in the state of motion of a body. That is, force is something that initiates a motion or controls a motion. Second law gives its quantitative understanding or its mathematical expression. Third importance of Newton's first law of motion is it defines inertia as a fundamental property of every physical object by which the object resists any change in its state of motion. Inertia is measured as the mass of the object. More specifically, it is called inertial mass, which is the ratio of net force F to the corresponding acceleration A. Then, Newton's second law of motion having its importance. First is it gives mathematical formulation for quantitative measure of force as a rate of change of linear momentum. Second importance of Newton's second law of motion is it defines momentum P is equal to mv instead of velocity as the fundamental quantity related to motion. What is changed by a force is the momentum and not necessarily its velocity. The third importance of the Newton's second law of motion is Aristotle's fallacy is overcome by considering resultant unbalanced force there. Then we have studied the importance of Newton's third law of motion. First importance of Newton's third law of motion is it defines action and reaction as a pair of equal and opposite forces acting along the same line. And the second importance of Newton's third law of motion is action and reaction forces are always on different objects. So, we have studied about Newton's laws of motion and its importance. Now, let us proceed the chapter. The next topic we have inertial and non-inertial frames of reference. Physics deals with different types of motion. If an object changes its position with respect to its surroundings, it is said to be in motion. If object does not change its position with respect to its surroundings, then object is at rest. For example, Mount Everest is at rest for an observer on the surface of the earth, but it is in a state of motion for an observer on the moon. The motion is always relative. Hence, a system of coordinates of an observer used to describe any motion is called frame of reference. To describe the motion mathematically, we use Cartesian coordinate system. Now consider yourself standing on a railway platform or a bus stand and you see a train or bus moving. According to you, that train or bus is moving or is in motion. As per the experience of the passengers in the train or bus, they are at rest and you are moving in backward direction. Hence, motion itself is said to be a relative concept. And to know or describe a motion, you need to describe or define some reference. Such a reference is called as frame of reference. Now, in this example that we had discussed, if you consider the platform as the reference, then the passengers and the train are moving. However, if the train is considered as the reference, you and platform etc. are moving. So, means to say that the motion is a relative concept. It is always relative. And here there is a need to describe the motion, we have to take certain reference and that reference is to be named as frame of reference. Now, usually a set of coordinates with a suitable origin is enough to describe a frame of reference. If position coordinates of an object are continuously changing with time in a frame of reference, then that object is in motion in that frame of reference. So, here the frame of reference may be inertial or non-inertial frame of reference. The frame of reference is to be divided as inertial or non-inertial frame of reference. Inertial frame of reference is the one in which Newton's first law of motion holds good. If Newton's first law of motion holds good in one frame of reference, then it also holds good for any other frame of reference there, which is at rest or with uniform motion with respect to this frame of reference. Hence, we can say that any frame of reference in which Newton's first law of motion is applicable is the simplest understanding of an inertial frame of reference. It means if there is no net force, there is no acceleration. Thus, in an inertial frame, a body will move with constant velocity, which may be 0 also, if there is no net force acting upon it. In the absence of a net force, if an object suffers an acceleration, that frame of reference is not an inertial frame and is called as non-inertial frame of reference. So, a frame of reference in which the Newton's first law, that is the law of inertia, does not hold good is called non-inertial frame of reference. Non-inertial frame of reference have accelerated motion with respect to inertial frame of reference there. Now, consider a pendulum suspended from a roof of a train. When the train is at rest, we observe that it is in equilibrium along a vertical direction. We can say that there are two forces acting on the pendulum: gravity in the downward direction and tension in the string in the upward direction. If the train is moving with uniform speed, the pendulum will still be in the equilibrium along a vertical direction. Now, if the train is accelerated in forward direction, the pendulum is observed to be inclined in backward direction. In order to explain this, we apply Newton's law. The external force on the bob are gravity in the downward direction and tension along the string. Since the string is inclined, the component of the tension in horizontal direction is not balanced by any other external force. If we apply Newton's law of motion, then the pendulum cannot be in equilibrium, but it is observed to be in equilibrium position. In order to explain this, we need to introduce a force in backward direction, and this is called a pseudo force. The concept of the pseudo force can also be understood from the following examples. The first one is, if a person is standing in a lift moving with uniform velocity, then he is in inertial frame of reference. But now lift is ascending with an acceleration, that is accelerated frame of reference. The person feels a force in the downward direction called as pseudo force. If the lift is descending with an acceleration, the pseudo force acts on the person in the upward direction. The second example is given like a person sitting in a closed car feels that he is at rest if car is moving with the uniform velocity. A person which is sitting in a closed car and the car is moving with a uniform velocity, so the person feels that he is at rest. Now, as the car is in the initial frame of reference in this case, but if the car is accelerated or decelerated, person experiences backward or forward push. This is because person is now in accelerated or non-inertial frame of reference. The backward and forward motion of a person is due to a force called as pseudo force acting on him. Third example is to be given as a passenger sitting in a bus moving along a circular path experiences a force towards right or left. When bus takes turn towards the left or right. In this case, bus performs circular motion which is accelerated motion. Hence, passenger is in the non-inertial frame of reference, and a pseudo force acts on the passenger in a direction opposite to that of the acceleration. This is along the radius and away from the center of the circular path. The measurements in one inertial frame can be converted to measurements in another inertial frame by a simple transformation. That is by simply using some velocity vectors, that is relative velocity between the two frames of reference. The examples here we are considering already we have discussed. Imagine yourself inside a car with all windows opaque so that you cannot see anything outside. Also consider that there is a simple pendulum tied inside the car and not set into oscillations. If the car just starts its motion with reference to the outside or ground, you will experience a jerk, that is acceleration inside the car even though there is no force acting upon you. During this time, the string of the pendulum may be steady but not vertical. During time of acceleration, the car can be considered to a non-inertial frame of reference. Later on, if the car is moving with constant velocity with reference to the ground, you will not experience any jerky motion within the car, and the car can be considered as an inertial frame of reference. In this case, the pendulum string will be vertical when not oscillating. So here we have discussed about the inertial and non-inertial frame of reference, where we have to use the Newton's laws of motion. Now, there are certain limitations of the Newton's laws of motion. First of all, the Newton's laws are applicable only in the inertial frames of reference. If the body is in the frame of reference of acceleration, we need to use a pseudo force in addition to all other forces while writing the force equations. The second limitation is Newton's laws are applicable for point objects only. The third limitation is given, Newton's laws are applicable to rigid bodies. A body is said to be the rigid if the relative distance between its particles do not change for any deforming force. That means when the force is to be applied at 2 points of the rigid body and the distance between these 2 points will not be changed, the body is said to be a rigid. The fourth limitation is given, for objects moving with speeds comparable to that of light, Newton's laws of motion do not give results that match with the experimental results, and Einstein's special theory of relativity has to be used there. The last limitation of the Newton's laws of motion is behavior and interaction of objects having atomic or molecular sizes cannot be explained using Newton's laws of motion, and quantum mechanics has to be used there. So here we have discussed the motion is nothing but the change with time of the position or orientation of a body. Motion along a line or a curve is called translational motion. Motion that changes the orientation of a body is called rotation. In both cases, all points in the body have the same velocity, that is the directed speed, and the same acceleration, that is the time rate of change of velocity. The most general kind of motion combines both translational and rotation. And now we come to know that all motions are relative to some frame of reference. A system of coordinates of an observer used to describe any motion is called frame of reference. The frame of reference may be inertial or non-inertial frame of reference. Inertial frame of reference is the one in which Newton's first law of motion holds good. If Newton's first law of motion holds good in one frame of reference, then it also holds good in any other frame of reference, at rest or with uniform motion with respect to this frame of reference. A frame of reference in which the Newton's first law of motion or law of inertia does not hold good is called non-inertial frame of reference. The non-inertial frames of reference have accelerated motion with respect to inertial frame of reference. So here we had discussed about inertial and non-inertial frames of reference. The chapter will be continued next time in the next lecture. Thank you.